r/AITA. I kicked out my stepdaughter for throwing my cat. Story 1. I've been with my 45-year-old fiancé for 3 years now. He has 2 daughters, one 22 years of age who's a lovely person, and the other, a 19-year-old, who we'll all call Kim in this story. Kim has always had a bad attitude, especially towards me. Just to clarify, my fiancé's divorce was finalized 2 years before we met, and his ex-wife is a lovely person whom I get along with very well. Kim is currently 3 months pregnant and living with us because we have more space, and her boyfriend occasionally stays over. However, he has a busy schedule with 2 jobs and studies, so I've mainly been taking care of her. Today, Kim's boyfriend came over and my fiancé suggested we leave them alone in the house for some privacy. When I returned home after about 2 hours, I noticed my cat, Whiskey, was missing. Kim disliked my cat and wanted me to get rid of him. When I asked her where Whiskey was, she claimed he had run out of the door, which I knew was untrue because Whiskey is an elderly cat who wouldn't venture outside on his own. To confirm my suspicion, I checked the security camera footage, which showed Kim throwing Whiskey out. My fiancé defended her, citing her pregnancy hormones and pregnancy brain, and mentioned he had been considering getting rid of Whiskey for the baby's sake. I was devastated and confronted Kim, who had a smug look on her face. I lost my temper and told her she had 1 hour to find my cat or all her belongings would end up in the dumpster, as I was tired of being treated like her servant. She responded by saying she wouldn't look for my stupid cat and that I should back off because she was pregnant. My fiancé tried to mediate and suggested we search for the cat together, but I declined, stating I would find my cat on my own, and when I returned, Kim needed to be gone. I didn't wait for their response, but did hear her crying. I eventually found Whiskey hiding in some bushes, which took 20 long minutes. When I got back, my fiancé and Kim were in the living room. My fiancé insisted on talking but demanded I apologize to Kim first. I refused and told him he could go too if he had a problem because I was fed up with his daughter's behavior. As far as I know, Kim is staying at her boyfriend's family home and my fiancé is not speaking to me. Sooner than I thought, my now ex-fiancé's oldest daughter, Kate, reached out to me to hear my side of the story. Kate is an animal lover like me and knows her sister very well. She called Kim to hear her side and Kim admitted the truth. She and her dad had planned to take Whiskey to a remote location to abandon him, but then their dad refused to do it. So Kim kicked Whiskey out and chased him away from the yard. Kate also revealed that Kim talked about revenge against me and Whiskey, even if she didn't move back in. Following the advice of Kate, my friends, the vet, and others, I decided to call off the wedding and break up with my ex-fiancé through text. I informed him that I would pack up his belongings and leave them for him to collect in a few days. I've also ensured Whiskey's safety and he's currently curled up in my lap, safe and sound. So, am I the jerk for kicking out my pregnant teenage stepdaughter for throwing out my cat? You know, I feel like things could have been way less dramatic if the woman's ex-fiancé had just stepped in and helped his daughter see the light. I mean, sometimes a little guidance can go a long way. The woman was totally in her right to kick her future stepdaughter out, though. I mean, she was living in her house and messed with her cat. That's a big no-no in my book. Who does that? And let's not forget about gratitude. The stepmom was doing her best to provide for her stepdaughter, but instead she got stubbornness and disrespect in return. I guess some people just can't appreciate a good thing when it's right in front of them. Talk about biting the hand that feeds you, right? Now, I get that being pregnant can make you a bit moody, but come on, that's no excuse to throw out a cat and lie about it. Poor Whiskey. Maybe the stepdaughter has other issues, but that still doesn't justify what she did. Thankfully, the cat didn't run away and things didn't get any worse. It's pretty obvious that the cat is harmless, just hiding in the bushes, waiting for its owner to come get it. So I'd say the stepmom was totally justified in kicking the girl out. But let's not forget that the stepmom must have been pretty upset about what happened in her family. I mean, they were all lovey-dovey and then this incident happened. It must have been tough for her to deal with this family drama, especially when her fiancé kept defending his daughter's bad behavior. I get that they're family, but sometimes you gotta call people out when they're wrong, you know? You should have taught her some respect, how to treat animals, and how to own up to her mistakes, and there's definitely no "it's just a cat" excuse here. In the end, it's probably for the best that the stepmom didn't go through with marrying her ex-fiancé. She listened to her friends and found peace with her cat, Whiskey. Let's raise a glass to that.
Oh my God! What is that?
If you two are asking what that is, it's the sponsor of today's video, Rufus Rugs. We've been hard at work, creating the best quality and premium hand-tufted rugs money can buy. Now there's a chance you own a carpet that looks something like this. Let's just be real. It's time for an upgrade. And luckily for you, me and the boys from Rufus Rugs are at your service. We don't make those average cheap quality looking rugs. Nope, not gonna happen. Each one is handcrafted to perfection. No shortcuts, no robot assembly lines, and no dropshipping BS. Just pure rug grind. Whether you love anime, sports, cars, or anything else you can think of, we can turn it into a rug. So click the first link in the description and have your custom idea come to life.
Story 2. I'm a 34-year-old woman, and my sister, who is 31, was the first among us 4 siblings to have a child, a 5-year-old niece. My niece is incredibly spoiled, not just by my sister, but also by our parents and extended family. My parents bend over backward for my sister's requests, like canceling their anniversary trip to babysit while she goes on a girls' weekend. This spring, I faced a series of personal challenges. My boyfriend, who was my rock in life, passed away, and I also lost my job. With a lot going on, I decided to move back to my hometown. My parents own a rural property that they used to rent out. However, it had been vacant for a while and it was in a bit of disrepair. My parents graciously invited me to stay there rent-free, assuring me it was my home for as long as I needed. I invested a significant amount of my time and money. I found a remote job into fixing up the house. During this time, I also made friends with Ola, a Ukrainian refugee who has a young daughter. Ola was struggling and I invited her to stay with me for a couple of months. It was not only for her benefit but also for my own company. While she appreciated the offer, she hasn't firmly responded yet as she's trying to regain her independence. Importantly, my parents had no issue with her staying. However, things took an unexpected turn. My brother-in-law had been working for a shady company that skirted regulations for profit. Eventually, the law caught up with the owner, who folded the company and left the country. To keep it brief, due to the character limit, some other events unfolded, leading my sister's family to abruptly move to our hometown and move in with my parents. Almost immediately, my parents and sister approached me with a proposal. They suggested that I move in with our parents while my sister and her family take my place in the house. They argued that the house I lived in was too large for one person and that it would be much better for my niece to live on a beautiful property in nature. I was baffled by this request. My parents have 2 guest rooms. My sister, brother-in-law, and their child each have their own bedrooms, just like I didn't at age 5. Additionally, my brother-in-law is financially well off from his previous job and could easily find them a place. They're even buying an expensive car. When I brought up the work I had put into the property, they brushed it off. When I mentioned Ola, my parents were outraged that I was more focused on helping someone else and their child rather than my own sister and niece. They kept comparing my sister's situation to Ola's, making it seem nearly as dire. Finally, my parents told me, "You're living on our property and you'll do as we want." In response, I reminded them that they had given the property to me and said it was my home for as long as I needed. However, if we want to talk about property terms and not family terms, then they should evict me. While my parents are not evicting me, I receive daily calls and messages from them and extended family, guilt-tripping me and labeling me as the a-hole for not giving up the more comfortable space to my sister, who is supposedly in a difficult situation with a young child. Only my brothers see my side, but their opinions don't carry much weight in my family as they are young men in college. I feel like I'm going insane. Am I the jerk for not moving out of the property my parents gave me so that my golden child sister, her husband, and kid could move in? Hey, so I don't want to sound rude or anything, but the family dynamics here are a bit weird, don't you think? The woman is going through a tough time with her breakup and all, and she's been working hard, but her parents are spoiling her niece and telling her to move out. It's like there's this weird tension in the air. When her sister moves in, the woman will have to live with her parents, and the Ukrainian refugee staying with her will have to leave. It's just sad all around, you know? Nobody wants to disappoint someone they're helping out. But I kind of get where the parents are coming from too. The house legally belongs to them, not to her. So they have the right to ask her to leave if they want to. It's upsetting, I know, but maybe they're just trying to do what's best for their granddaughter. Honestly though, this whole situation could have been avoided if the family just talked things out. They should have had a good old chat and listened to each other's thoughts. It's a shame that some families have lost that connection and can't communicate properly, and kids get upset when they feel like their parents are playing favorites. Maybe this family needs to work on their relationship and break down those barriers that are keeping them apart. They should try to talk things out and support each other instead of letting misunderstandings and insecurities get in the way. Communication is key to building strong family bonds, am I right? Hopefully, if they work on it, they'll find a deeper connection and everything will turn out a-okay. Story 3. I'm engaged to the love of my life. Let's call her Sarah. While Sarah doesn't have any major issues with my parents, there's a bit of tension on both sides, and no one has really made an effort to get close. It's not ideal, but I guess it's fine. However, it does sadden me that they aren't more excited about Sarah. Recently, Sarah asked my mom if she could help with making centerpieces for the wedding. Sarah is into DIY, but we're running short on time, so she was reaching out to see if anyone would be willing to assist. She was open about the fact that it's somewhat labor-intensive, and she told my mom that if she didn't want to help, there was no pressure. Well, my mom took offense to this and responded that she didn't want to help, saying we hadn't cared about her at all, so she doesn't care about our damn wedding. This comment hurt Sarah, but she didn't engage in an argument. Sarah shared this with me, and I called my mom. I approached it aggressively, raising my voice as I confronted her about what she had said to Sarah. My mom countered by saying that Sarah hadn't included her in any of the fun parts of the wedding planning or asked for her opinion on anything, so why should she help with centerpieces? I asked her to apologize to Sarah, but my mom refused, saying she was done discussing it. In response, I uninvited her from the wedding. My dad reached out via text and I told him he could still attend. However, he basically told me to forget it if I thought he would come without my mom. Now, my mom is upset because she knows people will be asking where she is. On the other hand, Sarah is delighted and feels that I stood up for her, but practically everyone else believes I'm the one at fault. Am I really the jerk for not inviting my parents to my wedding after my mom said, I don't care about your trash wedding? Wow, it's like this guy's wedding day was hit by a storm of mixed emotions. But seriously, it's not cool to treat a mother that way, especially when you're at that stage where parents expect to be involved in the memorable moments. Looks like we have another classic case of daughter-in-law versus mother-in-law showdown, an age-old dilemma. If we take a step back and look at the bigger picture, maybe the mom felt left out of all the fun parts of the wedding while others got to join in. She might have felt like the couple only considered her for the hard work and chores. But of course, the bride and groom have the right to choose who does what. Perhaps the mother's emotions got all stirred up because she felt excluded from the whole wedding preparation process, and then suddenly her daughter-in-law handed her a task that involved manual labor. That might have really pushed her buttons. It's possible her feelings intensified because she was hurt by how her son and daughter-in-law treated her in what should have been a special and proud moment for her as a mother. I mean, every loving mom wants to make a significant contribution to their child's wedding, right? So yeah, the couple might have come off as a bit insensitive in this situation. On the flip side, the guy's mother could have handled things with more civility. Yelling and insults probably weren't the best way to go about it. So both sides have made some mistakes here. It's a classic case of a lack of respectful communication, and that tends to lead to these kinds of problems. Without open-mindedness, healthy communication, and understanding, these situations tend to pop up. Communication is the glue that holds relationships together, and without it, things can get messy. Think about it. As a species, we survive because of communication and cooperation. Even in personal relationships, it's a skill you definitely want to work on. Without it, well, you end up with situations like this. Story 4. Over the past couple of months, my wife has been complaining incessantly about our cats. She claims they constantly wake her up, and she's frustrated by having to get up to open the door for them or deal with their noise and jumping. It got to the point where she wanted me to get rid of them. I told her I'd never seen or heard any of this, but she insisted that I sleep through it all. She kept telling me she was losing sleep and became increasingly irritable, attributing it to the cats. She even threatened to leave me if I didn't get rid of them. I started considering giving the cats to my sister, but then something struck me. One morning, she listed multiple times she claimed to have gotten up throughout the night to help the cats. It seemed odd because I had been awake until 4 a.m. and she said she got up at 1 a.m. to open the door for them and a few times around 3 a.m. because they were meowing and jumping on her. I was in the bedroom the entire time and I knew none of that had happened. Something didn't add up, so I decided to conduct a little test. I waited until she announced she was going to bed, and then I let the cats out of our bedroom and pretended to go to sleep. I lay in bed all night, bored but awake, making sure to timestamp events every 30 minutes on my phone through Discord. I recorded every noise the cats made. At 3:18 a.m., one cat made a small sound when it jumped down, and at 4:57 a.m., the other cat quietly ate by the bedroom door. Other than that, there was no activity. To no surprise, my wife slept soundly from 11 p.m. to 9 a.m. The next morning, she claimed to have woken up at least 7 times due to the cats opening doors and cat noises. I was infuriated because she was clearly lying. Exhausted and fed up with the deception, I confronted her. I told her, "Funny thing is, I stayed up all night to monitor the cats and they weren't even in the room last night. I have timestamps and everything. So you've been lying to me, trying to convince me to get rid of my cats. Why?" She sat there, silent and angry, then left without answering. She returned hours later and ignored me whenever I spoke. When I asked her how I was the bad guy in this situation, she finally said that I was treating her like a child, lying about my sleep patterns, and staying up all night to investigate had gone too far, making me seem obsessive and inconsiderate. I did it because she threatened to make me get rid of my cats and her claims didn't add up. So, life update, my wife has been Baker acted, not because she harmed herself, but because of concerning behavior in public. The hospital called asking me to attend to some family therapy, and she finally seemed willing to talk. To be honest, the reason behind her animosity toward my cats is infuriatingly nonsensical. It's nothing anyone had suggested. She's not cheating, not physically or mentally ill, not bored with the relationship and seeking an out. According to her, one of the cats stepped on her laptop and ruined a story she was writing, and she's resented both cats ever since. It's a frustrating situation, but it's not worth emotionally blackmailing me into giving them up. I asked her why she didn't just tell me the truth from the start and why she lied and avoided discussing it when I asked. Her response was, because she wouldn't have gotten rid of them otherwise. She explained that when she saw I wasn't willing to abandon the cats for her, she took offense and made it her goal to have me choose her over them. It's sickening, and I don't understand why she admitted to it all. During our therapy session, she yelled at me for betraying her and called me scum for choosing animals over her. At least cats don't issue ultimatums like she did. While her Baker act is unfortunate, it's probably for the best. It will give her time to process everything in a safe environment and hopefully come to terms with it. I know it may sound harsh, but I'm seriously considering divorce. I'm concerned about having her in the same house as my cats. I want them to be safe and not worry about any harm or them disappearing. I'll likely follow the advice most of you suggested, keep the cats, rehome the wife. It's not how I wanted things to end, but life isn't always kind. A few points of clarification from the original post. I didn't stare at her all night. We had a TV with subtitles playing. I couldn't install cat doors and she wouldn't let me keep the doors open due to apartment rules. I assumed she was lying because I was unfamiliar with certain mental health conditions that can affect memory and perception. I simply didn't know about these possibilities, so I assumed she was being deceitful. My mistake. So, am I the obsessive jerk for pretending to sleep all night to test if my wife is lying? Well, we've got ourselves a bit of a tricky situation here, don't we? It's like this guy's caught between choosing his wife or his cats. Some might find it a little peculiar, but when you think about it, we can't quite understand just how much this guy loves his feline friends. You see, everyone's got their own way of dealing with emotions and finding companionship. For some, it's through their pets, and that's totally a-okay because it brings them joy. Now, when we take a closer look at this scenario, it's important to be a little skeptical and dig deeper into things. Sometimes we've got to venture into the unknown to figure things out. Otherwise, we might end up making a mess of things. As science teaches us, we need to investigate, find answers to our questions, which is why there's always a bit of a Sherlock Holmes in any problem-solving process. When it comes to this particular situation, the wife's fake excuses for not getting along with the cats, like not being able to sleep or the cat disrupting her work, those are major red flags. Let's be real, it all boils down to her just not clicking with the cat, yet she's spinning all these lies. And when she got caught, she went all in on gaslighting her husband. That's some seriously toxic behavior right there. It's no wonder the guy decided to call it quits on their marriage. It's understandable that he couldn't endure the constant stress and turmoil anymore, and he chose to evict his wife from his headspace. Just imagine if he had continued to tolerate those lies. It could have been a major recipe for even more trouble. We should respect his decision and wish him the best moving forward. So, get this. Turns out the guy's wife was dealing with some mental health stuff. It's a tough situation and it makes you wonder why he didn't catch on earlier. But hey, his wife didn't exactly make it easy to share her problems. People have different thresholds for what they can handle in life, you know? Some people might say the guy lacked the courage to fight for their love or help his wife through her struggles, but he did admit to being left in the dark. Maybe we could criticize him for not digging deeper into what she was going through, but then again, he was pretty focused on his love for his cats. We've all got our limits. No one can deal with loads of negativity forever. In the end, things might have gone differently if they had been more connected and open with each other. They'd been living together for a while, but it felt like they barely knew each other. That's a common issue in relationships. So, my advice, take the time to really get to know and understand your partner. We all have our quirks, but we can learn and grow together. A little bit of care and understanding can make all the difference. That's a wrap. And if you're looking for more real-life stories, you're gonna love r/MaliciousCompliance. You want updates? You got it. Story 1, the first story, is hilarious. And I'll catch you there.